Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the people here in Nevis, those in St. Kitts, those in the wider Caribbean. Good evening to those in the United States and Canada and the United Kingdom. Wherever you are this evening and you're listening, good evening and welcome to another edition of On The Mark. I'm your host, Premier Mark Brantley, and I hope to be here with you through the grace of God until 10 o'clock. Each Wednesday we have this show right in the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse, VON Radio, from 8 p.m. until 10 p.m. It is still in the Federation the only 2-hour primetime talk show without commercial interruption. And that is made possible through the generosity of the law firm of Daniel Brantley, which has sponsored this show over the past decade and a half. I say thank you to them, and certainly we look forward to continuing to engage with you on a Wednesday, each Wednesday, 8 to 10. I thank all of our viewers, all of our listeners, all of you who have regularly tuned in. Many of you have been with us from the very first show, and you continue to be with us. Without you, of course, we have no show, because we depend on the audience and we depend on your feedback, and so I thank you for being part of this show. My name, Mark Brantley, and I have been the host of this show for the duration. Of course, from time to time I'm assisted by various colleagues, and I want to thank all of them who have from time to time filled in at sometimes a moment's notice to host this show. And so we're very happy to be here. And now, of course, we are live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and of course you can listen to the old-fashioned way on radio. You can go via the internet, the website. There's so many ways that you can listen and view the show, and so I thank you all for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot is happening. I start by extending my concern. I have reached out already and have learned that our students in Taiwan were not affected adversely by the terrible earthquake there, but there was considerable loss of life and damage to property. And as I did last week, I continue to extend my deep condolences and heartfelt sympathy to the government and people of Taiwan, and to wish those that were injured a speedy recovery, and certainly to mourn with those who have been lost, their loved ones who they've left behind. We've also had the unusual news of earthquake tremors being felt in the United States, particularly in New York, New Jersey, and those environs. Again, I have checked, and it appears that our people are okay. I am to hope that they remain safe. I am always particularly concerned when we have earthquakes in places like New York City, which, as we know, has many high-rise buildings. But God is good, and I'm hopeful that He in His wisdom will spare those big cities from that type of calamity. It is unusual to hear of New York and New Jersey having earthquakes, but that appears to have been the case. But thankfully, it appears no damage was done to anyone and everyone is safe, and so for that we are truly grateful. I start the show this week on a few words of sympathy and condolences. I want to remember my friend from Bad Village, Curly Sliburn, known to all as Curly. He lived right there next to Alfred's shop, and I used to get all of my music from him. Many people may not know, but he has been in and around music and the DJ business for a long time. He worked with us in government, and I really would like to extend my condolences to his entire family, those that survive him. I can think of my good friend Eddie, his brother, and I can also think of Eloise, his sister, and all of his other siblings and relatives, those who survive him. It is always, I think, saddest when young people pass away. And he was a young man who did not appear to have any particular ailments, but took ill and has unfortunately died. And so I extend condolences to the entire Bart Village community, and indeed all of Nevis, on the passing of who I refer to as Curly, because he was always Curly to me and my good friend. And so I extend condolences to him, to his family, and those that survive him. Let me also extend the deepest condolences. We have heard of the passing of someone known to us all, Andre Phipps. You may not know him as Andre Phipps, you know him as Magic Man. He was a profound voice on radio stations here in the Federation, and I got news on my way here that he had passed away, and so I would want to extend my condolences to his family and all of those who survive him as well. And whilst I'm on that, I also got sad news of the passing of Alphonse Bridges. Mr. Bridgewater, better known to everyone as Bridges, was an iconic figure in sports here in the Federation. He gave yeoman service in the area of sports. He has been recognized over the years, but I gather that he took ill. And in fact, it was just on the weekend that someone mentioned to me that he was not doing well at all. And so we got the news that he had passed. And so I would want again to extend deep condolences to the sporting community, to his family and those that survive him, and his friends, and really to all of us, because I think when you have persons like him who have served and served with distinction, it's a loss to the entire federation and the entire country. And so I extend again my heartfelt condolences to the family. If there are others out there who are mourning, who have lost loved ones, I may not have mentioned you by name, because ordinarily when I come to the show, I come with the information that I have at that point in time. But please know that my heart and my prayers are with you, and I trust and hope that you will find some comfort even in your hour of bereavement. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot has been happening, and I am hopeful that we will get to some of what has been going on here on the island. And certainly when the lines open, I anticipate that you who are out there would also be calling in to say what you have to say and to put your issues on the table as well. But let me just make some announcements, if you will. I would want to announce that we have an innovative idea for Culturama this year. And Culturama is well and truly on. I'm going to get to various updates on that. But we have an innovative idea introduced, and it's called a Taste of Culturama. They're having a battle of the bartenders, and this bartending competition is to create the drink of the festival. I think this is a brilliant idea, because it means that for Culturama 50, we will have a signature drink of the festival. I don't know what that drink will be. The bartenders will compete to determine what that drink will be. But I'm told that that competition will be on April 14th at the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park in Pinnes, and it starts at 4 p.m. We'll have entertainment by DJ Smudge and SG Presidential Sounds. Sponsors are Clifton Estate Rum, Carib, Olivia Sound, Pyramid Equipment, Rodney's Tent, Table and Chair Rentals. And so you're asked to come out on the 14th, the afternoon of the 14th of April at 4 p.m. and to be a part of a battle of the mixes, where we're trying to have a bartender competition to create a drink of the festival for Culturama 50. And I think that's a brilliant idea, and it's something new, and I trust and hope that you will go out and you'll support in your numbers as we ramp up. What I like about Culturama this year is almost every week there's some new innovation. They've launched an app. They're now going to have the drink of the festival. They're having Panyard, which is pan in the park. They're doing so many new things, different things. And I think that those, especially who are coming home, are going to have a special treat. While I'm on Culturama, let me continue to encourage the army of contractors that we've had on board who are engaging in the work at the cultural complex and the cultural village. But also I want to say to the public that we're also simultaneously engaging in work at NIPAC. That, of course, performance center has been plagued with issues since it opened, of leaks and the like, and so we are trying to remedy those once and for all. So we're spending quite a bit of money trying to fix the roof, and also implementing a new air conditioning system there, and we hope to do other changes there to deal with some of the amenities, the lighting, etc. So we're working on that, and all of this is being done at the same time. It's taken up quite a substantial amount of resources, financial resources from the government. But it is our view that investing in the arts, investing in Culturama, having the type of event for our 50th anniversary, which will be memorable, that it's important. I know for sure that I won't be around for the other 50 years. I won't be there for 100 years of Culturama. And so those of you who are privileged to be here and hopeful to reach to July to see Culturama 50, I think we should make the best of it. It's a time, of course, for revelry. It's a time for partying, but it's also a time to get together with family and friends. And since this year we're having our grand homecoming celebration, we anticipate that Nivisions from all across the world, Kittitians from all across the world, and their offspring, because I want when you come from England, don't just come. Bring the children and the grandchildren. Let them find out where they're from. That is important as well. As I always say, our diaspora, you may be there and we are here, but we are one. We are one, separated perhaps by some miles of ocean, but we are one. We are connected. Our umbilical cords are connected, and we're connected by blood. And so we invite all of you to come home for Culturama 50 and be a part of this grand celebration. Hotels, rent-a-cars, all these businesses are going to do well. The bars, we're going to make sure that we have Pinnis Park completely done and ready for you. We are going to have a great time for Culturama, and I pray that God will keep us safe and continue to be there for us as we celebrate this phenomenal cultural extravaganza that was started some 50 years ago by a group of culturally minded individuals. And so I thank all of them who were part of that, and I trust and hope that we'll have an opportunity to honor them during this celebration that is upcoming. And so thank you for all, and we continue to look forward to Culturama. I encourage, as I said, the contractors who are working at the Cultural Village and Cultural Complex to work safely, but work assiduously to get their jobs done, and so that they can hand over that facility to us in good order, so that we can be ready for Culturama 50. So we look forward to that, and I'm sure you're going to hear more from the Minister of Culture, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, and his team as we move forward. Speaking of the Honorable Eric Evelyn, I was quite pleased that he was able to facilitate, he and his team, his Permanent Secretary Huey Sargent, and the entire team at Agriculture, a gift to Anguilla of some fruit trees. I think we had about 2.5 dozen fruit trees, mangoes, soursop, I'm told, cashew. What else did they send to Anguilla? Well, I know mango, soursop, and cashew, breadfruit, and some other fruit as well we sent to Anguilla. And this was part of Anguilla Plant a Day. It's an initiative, I think, from the North Hill community. And I want to thank Devon Carty, who had reached out to me, my dear friend Kelva Lindo, who also reached out to me. And it has created quite a stir. Of course, we know that Anguillans and Nevisians have always been very close over the years. We are very similar. Anguilla is flat with the beaches and Nevis is mountainous, and so we complement each other quite well, and our people have always had a love affair with each other. We've always had a very good relationship. Of course, we know Anguilla was once part of the tripartite state of St. Kitts, Nevis and Anguilla, and so at one point we were actually the same political space, but that is no longer the case, but we remain good friends. And Anguilla is on a particular developmental path that is quite similar to what we are trying to do here on the island of Nevis as well. And so this was our opportunity to contribute to a worthy cause in Anguilla. And I've said to my friends in Anguilla, if you want more plants, if you want more fruit trees, please feel free to ask. We'll try to accommodate. We are trying to do our very best here in Nevis to promote more food, more planting of food, more planting of trees. And I think we've done a great job on that. You recall that we had an initiative here to plant 1,000 trees. We didn't quite get to 1,000 during the period of time. I think the figures showed that we got to over, I'm not sorry, not 1,000, I think it was 10,000 trees, forgive me. We did not get to the 10,000, but I think we got fairly close. And we've continued to plant trees here in Nevis, but particularly fruit trees. A friend of mine said to me that he's not landscaping his property with any ornamentals. He landscaped with food, and I thought that was interesting. He said he only plants fruit trees in his yard. That's his landscaping, because they will give him something to eat. And so I encourage all of us to plant something. Plant a tree, plant some coconut, do whatever it may be. But it pays, believe me, it does. I have coconut trees at home that I would say every 6 weeks or so, every 2 months, I have coconuts from them. And they just keep bearing and bearing. It's like the gift that keeps giving. And so we thank God, and we encourage others as well to plant as much as possible. So Anguilla, if you're listening, it was our pleasure to donate some trees to you, and I'm happy for that. I made a joke on Facebook today, because my very, very good friend in Anguilla, I reached out to him to tell him, you know, we had sent you some fruit trees, and I felt quite happy to tell him we had sent him some fruit trees. And he said, thank you, Anguilla will send you some white sand for your beaches. And so I think that was a bit of a low blow. We know Anguilla has some of the best beaches in the world, and so he offered to send me some white sand so that Nevis could have some white sand beaches too. But it's all in good fun and good natured, and so I certainly am happy that we're able to do that for our sister Anguilla. And it's a small number of trees, to be sure, but I'm hopeful if they all take and they all grow and they all bear, that one day one day in the next few years, Anguillans could enjoy their mangoes, they could enjoy their soursop, they could enjoy their breadfruit, cashew, all courtesy of this little gift that Nevis gave just a few days ago. And so I thank them for that, and I thank Devon Carty again for reaching out, and for Kelva Lindo for reaching out. I trust and hope that all goes well with their planting exercise. I think they said they're doing it on the 20th of April, so I'm hopeful that all goes well. And as I said, if they want more, then they simply need to let us know, and we'll do what we can to assist. And so we're here. I believe that in agriculture, Nevis is doing quite well. I would want to commend again the Honorable Eric Evelyn and his team. I think that they have performed and continue to perform creditably, and so I look forward to that. As I give commendations, let me commend the Honorable Troy Liebert, our young Minister of Sport and Youth, because we have just come through the sports season, and Minister Liebert has really done a fantastic job of it, and I want to commend him and his team. They have worked extremely hard. They have done extremely well, and I believe that they ought to be commended for their tremendous effort that they've made and that they continue to make in the area of sport. I have said it here that there was a big hullabaloo, if you will, about whether we would be able in Nevis to host the Inter-High Championship, the TDC Inter-High Championship. I never got involved in the debate, because I tell people, if Nevis could have successfully hosted the largest sporting event, indigenous sporting event in the Federation, which is our inter-primary, what we call the mini Olympics, where we have a whole half day, and we've been doing that for 30 years, then it was simple matters to host the Inter-High. So I commend Minister Liebert and his team, Jamir, the whole team there, and hope that they continue from strength to strength. While I'm talking about sports, while the school sports is officially wrapped up, I should give a plug to A1 Farms and AMP Promotions for their fifth parish relay, which will happen on Sunday, April 28th. So put that date in your calendar. Sunday, April 28, 2024 at the Nevis Athletic Stadium, starting at 1 p.m. Admission, $20. Children under 12, $5. Additional $5 for inside parking. And who are the teams? St. James Tigers, St. Thomas's Dragons, St. Paul's Falcons, St. John's Mustangs, and St. George's Hawks. Those are the 5 teams. So this is going to be a parish relay competition, and thanks to A1 Farms and AMP Promotions, we know that Mackie Truss is a strong advocate for athletics, and so we certainly encourage all and all to go out on the 28th and be a part of that. Just also to remind you that we are having our restaurant tasting that is going to happen this year again, as it has been for some time, and the ingredient, you're going to hear more about it, is papaya. So papaya, pupai, papa, however you want to call it, but that is the ingredient. Whether it's green, whether it's red, I don't know how they're going to cook it. I'm not sure what to do with papaya other than perhaps putting it in soup or something like that, but we'll find out, because that is the ingredient of the restaurant week. So going back to commendations, because I think it's important that we commend the work that is being done here on the island of Nevis. I want to go now to the Honorable General Nisbet, our young Minister of Health and Gender. Why? Because I had the privilege of getting a debriefing that occurred just a few days ago, where a large team assembled of hospital, fire, various emergency services, CCTV, and we were briefed by a lady, Anne Gurgley, I think her name is, from the Four Seasons Homeowners Association. She has been very passionate in pushing this particular venture, and she has been ably assisted on our side of the line by the Honorable General Nisbet, our Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health, Shalisa Martin, and the entire team at the Ministry of Health. And what is this about? It's about getting in place a functional, world-class emergency dispatch system for the island of Nevis, and we hopefully will be able to roll it out nationally once Sinkit sees this pilot project. We have seen, ladies and gentlemen, over the years that calling 911 sometimes doesn't yield the desired results. I'm told that sometimes when 911 is called, that sometimes that call is picked up in St. Kitts. Now, if you're up in Rollins somewhere, you're down in Brick Hill somewhere, and you want some assistance, the people pick up in St. Kitts may not be able to direct the emergency services to you. So we'll be having some issues. I've also heard that depending where you are on the island, if you call 911, they pick up as far as Antigua. So that system has not been optimal for us. And so we have been looking to see how we can do something where you call one number, it goes to a dispatch, and that dispatch then is able to be trained, first of all, keep you on the line while they send out fire, they send out police, they send out our ambulance and emergency technical response teams from our hospital, our EMTs, and we get all of that done. I was quite astonished that they are looking to respond in a matter of minutes. So the idea is that by the time you call, it should not be more than a few minutes before somebody is with you. And so it is a very, very ambitious. It is being led and financed in large measure by the Homeowners Association at Four Seasons, and I want to thank again Anne and the entire team because they've worked really hard. We'll be training people, we'll be hiring people. The intention is to house this at our CCTV command center in the heart of Charlestown, and I think it's a quantum leap forward for the island. And as I said, we are hopeful that on this, the island of St. Kitts as well will see what is happening here and be willing to be a part of that. The police have been involved, the high command has been involved, we have had the fire services involved, and the real idea is to have that dedicated service to dispatch in cases of emergency. You know, the irony about emergencies is that we may go for 20 years without needing to call 911, without needing to call out the ambulance. But when we do make that call, we need them in a state of readiness so that they can respond. And so we are up in the ante here in a significant way in Nevis. We are investing in upgrades in terms of our towers and the equipment that is required, the transmission equipment. We will certainly be bringing into place a first-rate emergency dispatch system, and I can't tell you how proud I am of the team. They've been working on this for a very long time. It is not a new project, but certainly the project is now coming to a close, and I'm delighted to extend congratulations to all of those involved. And as I said, the team is led by the Honorable Minister General Nisbet, and so I say kudos to her. While I'm extending kudos to colleagues, let me also commend the Honorable Spencer Brand. Spencer Brand, we call him the brand new man in town. He's not so new anymore because he was elected first in 2017 and he came back and won again in 2022. So he's now the man in St. Paul's, the man in town. And I want to commend him. Before I commend him, I want to congratulate him. He just celebrated his wedding anniversary, he and his wife Sheila. And so I congratulate them both and wish them many more years of good health and happiness. But Minister Brand, as a public servant and as a minister, has done remarkable work here on the island of Nevis. In recent times, you would have seen the transformation of Marion Avenue there in the Ramsbury area, but you've also seen a transformation in terms of drainage all around town. You've seen how we have widened and made safer the area there going up by the credit union, that whole street, Chapel Street I think it's called, that goes up there and comes around. I didn't even know that that could be widened, but they've accomplished that without doing any injustice to the Methodist Church there. We had to remove a wall and replace a wall there, but we were definitely trying to do our very best to preserve and conserve and to create a similar look to what was there before. And I want to commend Minister Brand because all across the island, right now they're doing some great work in Brown Hill as we try to tackle some of the side roads. I can assure some of our residents who have been clamoring to have their roads done that we have heard you and that we are coming to you, and please be patient with us. The crew is working and doing things in a very systematic way, and we hope that we'll get to you in short order. We will, and it is our ambition to have a brand new road network. I think the main arteries are all done. What we're trying to do now is to go into the villages and to touch some of the roads there and to ensure that our people have proper road infrastructure. And wherever we do roads, we do water. So it's also important that we have proper water infrastructure. What I mean by that is proper distribution, bigger pipes, more modern pipes. We've traded out all of those old iron pipes and cast iron pipes, and we now have polyurethane pipes. And so we have improved in a significant way the standard of water, the quality of what we're doing here on the island of Nevis. We have eliminated areas of low pressure all across the island. Now, Minister Brand has led that effort. It has not been easy. Even now the island is experiencing some difficulties with water in terms of the availability of water. We have in a way been victims to some extent of our own success. What do I mean by that? We have been victims of our own success because our tourism industry right now is booming. Our main flagship, the Four Seasons, is recording fantastic numbers in terms of occupancy. We have the hotels around the island, the guest houses, the villas, they're all full. They're all doing well. The result of that has been that there has been a much greater demand on our water system because we have so many visitors that are here. Just recently, for example, we had the Nevis to St. Kitts cross-channel swim just last weekend, and over 300 participants were in that swim. It was a sight to behold. I want to commend Jane Hansen and her team who have taken over that iconic event, and I believe that we will get to 1,000 participants in very short order. In fact, this year I was told I had to cut off registration at 300, and so I anticipate that it's going to get bigger and bigger. It has truly become a national iconic swim, a national iconic athletic event, sporting event, and people have come from all across the world to be a part of it. It is the only event that we are aware of its kind where we have a swim from one island to the next on an annual basis. But all of that and all those people who are descending on the island is putting pressure on our water system, and as a result of that we have had some shortages and some difficulties. That is coupled with the fact that it is a truism, I don't think that's a matter for debate, that we're getting less rainfall. That global warming and climate change has had that impact on us, that we are having longer periods of drought and considerably less rainfall. That in turn impacts the usage of water. And so we continue to ask our people to conserve as much as they can, but we also ask our people to be patient with us as we try to grapple with this problem. For Nevis, it has been a seasonal problem, but we have not been resting. As we all know, way back in 2017, I think it was, we had sought to engage with BEAD, and in fact paid BEAD a substantial sum of money as a down payment to drill some wells here in Nevis. BEAD did not deliver on that contract, and so we ended up having to engage in court proceedings, and that is ongoing. But what we have had to do is to go back out to tender to seek to get some drillers to come in to drill some wells for us. Before we did that, we did a new study. I don't want to get the language wrong. I always say geophysical study. I hope that's the correct language, but it's a study to determine where water is likely to be. And we brought in a chap called Skip Hogue. We commissioned him. He would have done earlier work with BEAD. He came in on his own account and he did some work for us. And based on that report that he produced, we were able to identify some areas for drilling. We then went out to bid, and we have selected a company from Trinidad and Tobago to come in to do the drilling for us. And I believe that the last report we had was that contracts have been signed, and we're at the point now of mobilizing payments and mobilizing the company to come in and to do that drilling. It is our hope that we can mobilize quickly and that we will have additional water available to us by Culturama. And certainly the ambition is to drill as many wells as we can so that we'll have greater access to groundwater. Now, the good thing about the island of Nevis is that we have invested significantly in storage and distribution. If you go around the island, you would realize that all around the island we have brand new tanks, new technology, and that these tanks are much larger than tanks that we had before. And so we have invested significantly in storage. We have also invested, as I mentioned earlier, in a new distribution system across the island. Replaced old pipes, have new technology, new polyurethane pipes all across the island. And so we have left the last part of that investment, which is new water. But it has been a good strategy in terms of development, because when we hope those new wells produce new water, we have storage already for that water. We have a distribution network already in place for that water. So we'll not have any delays in bringing that new water into your homes and your businesses. And so I want to thank Minister Brand, as I said, for the excellent work that he's been doing. He's not a fellow who makes a lot of noise, but he has produced, and he has produced well. And I want to thank him for that, and for that ongoing effort on his part, because the investment in water is significant here on the island. Whilst we are seeking about drilling, I also have to commend he and his team for their leadership in relation to the desalination plant that is also being constructed. That is being done, a grant by the United Arab Emirates. And I'm pleased about that, because I was foreign minister who negotiated 2 desalination plants, one for St. Kitts and one for Nevis. It has taken some time, but I'm happy to report that both are now under construction. And that desal plant is again an innovation, a new way for us to get water here on the island of Nevis. In fact, I'm not aware of any other desalination effort on Nevis. And this plant, which I'm told is going to be solar powered, is going to give us a glimpse into what is possible. I believe that the future lies with desalination. We are surrounded by ocean, and if we can find a way to transform that ocean water into potable water, then we have no need to go into our aquifers or to drill anymore. But until we get there, we are continuing with our drilling program, and we would hope to have more water available to you in very short order. Until that time, however, we continue to urge you to conserve, conserve, conserve. Please do not waste the water. And there are a number of simple things you can do. Check for leaks. Make sure that water isn't leaking anywhere in your house or in your yard. Ensure that when you're doing things like showering and brushing your teeth, that you use a minimum amount of water. And when you're washing your dishes and you're doing all that, you use a minimum amount of water. Try not to be washing your car too often. Try not to be watering your lawn and things of that nature. And wherever you can harvest water, that's important. Please harvest water. I'm very proud that Nevis has had a long tradition of water catchment. We have had a long tradition of building cisterns to store water. It is true that some of our more modern housing developments have not had that same tradition. And so we need to get back to that. It has been a debate here, because under our building code, we usually require some water catchment. But there was that conflict, because in trying to build what is referred to as affordable housing, many people said that the additional cost of the cistern was not a cost that they were prepared to carry. I believe we need to rethink that. We need to go back and say, yes, it may add somewhat to the cost of these homes, but at the end of the day, it also provides us with greater resilience, greater sustainability, and allows families greater comfort that they're no longer 100% dependent on government water, but they have that backup, which is a cistern or tank that can afford them some relief. And also that with less and less rainfall, we need to capitalize on that rainfall when it comes. We need to capture as much of it as we can when it comes. Much of the rain that we get simply runs off into the ocean. So we need our farmers, our homes, our businesses to have water catchment. I am very proud of the efforts. I believe this was done on the Honorable Eric Evelyn, of putting various tanks and catchment areas at our schools and at various community centers around the island. In that regard, our disaster management team has also been very involved in that project. And I want to thank them for their efforts in that regard, because most of our schools now have some catchment. But we need to do more. And each of our households and each of our businesses should try to capture water. We see sometimes when the rains come, the water simply run off the roofs and into the roads. We need to be able to capture that water, put up some gutterings and capture that water somewhere so that we have a substantial storage of water across the island, separate and apart from the government and the government supplies. That, I think, is an important initiative. At my own house, for example, I can tell you that for several months out of the year, we don't use government water because we have access to a substantial cistern. And most people have the ability to have a cistern or some kind of water catchment. And so I encourage everybody to do that. Somebody commented to me the other day on the irony of massive homes being built, having a swimming pool, but no cistern. Let me say that again. There are massive homes that are being built that have a swimming pool, but no cistern. So you have a catchment area filled up with chlorinated water to swim in, but you don't have any cistern with water that you can use in the event that the government mains are out. And so we need to have all hands on deck. Nevis has done a fairly good job in relation to water, and I want to commend all. At the water department, we have a new manager there, Miss Antonia Mills. She's doing an excellent job, she and her team, and I want to commend them all. And to say to you that we recognize over in St. Kitts that there are some problems over there. And we are hopeful that those problems can be resolved. I'm aware that some new drilling has occurred in the Keon area. I'm told that they had found good water. And I'm optimistic that that will be taken care of. I do not know how much St. Kitts has invested in storage or distribution. But as I told you, in Nevis, we had a systematic approach, a very deliberate approach where we invested in our new storage tanks, additional storage, and we invested in a modern distribution network. In fact, I will say that Nevis perhaps has one of the best water distribution networks now in the region because we have invested over the years. You know, I was talking to someone the other day, and I said in the last political cycle, national political cycle, one of the great criticisms leveled at me by the former leader of Team Unity, Timothy Harris, was that I was a bad spender. I remember that language that he employed. He said that I did not know how to invest money and that he had sent some money over from St. Kitts as a tiny fraction of the CBI proceeds and that somehow that money had been squandered by me. And I've smiled. You know why? You don't always have to kick at every barking dog. If you live long enough, things become self-evident. And as I listen to the water woes on St. Kitts, and I reflect that Nevis has not had anywhere close to that same level of water woes, I said perhaps Timothy Harris should also have been a bad spender. Perhaps if he was a bad spender, as he accused me of being, that those issues would have been resolved a long time ago. You see, whilst I was being accused of being a bad spender, what was I spending money on in Nevis? Water infrastructure, modern storage, distribution, road infrastructure. Look at them all across the island. People in Nevis now make noise when they find one pothole. You know why they find the pothole? Because the rest of the road is so good quality. What were we investing in Nevis? Water taxi facility, which is now a raging industry here on the island. 100% Nivision owned. We have just opened over there the reception area to provide a bit more comfort to passengers. And you have to look at it and say, well, if that was bad spending, you see the projects I'm talking about? Bad spending in Nevis, we invested in generators at Nevlec to the point where we only lose power now in Nevis if there's some emergency or if there's a scheduled outage for maintenance. Nivisions don't lose power anymore. We only lose power if, as happens sometimes, somebody bangs into a pole and creates a problem, or there is some emergency at the plant, or there's a scheduled outage for maintenance. You know why? We invested not in one, not in two, but in 3 new Wärtsilä engines. Brand new. Nothing refurbished. Nothing borrowed, nothing leased. purchased brand new. That's what they say was bad spending. We solidified the basic requirements for development on the island of Nevis: electricity, water, roads, water taxi. That is what I was attacked and saying that I was a bad spender. When you look at the stark contrast in the water situation in St. Kitts and that in Nevis, you realize that bad spending was perhaps good spending. Because I was being accused of being a bad spender with a fraction. In fact, in recent engagements with the IMF, they said that over the years Nevis has got 11% of the CBI receipts. 11%. St. Kitts has had 89% over there. And you're telling me with 89% of the money, you could not have fixed the water situation? You could not have fixed Skelec and electricity situation? You could not have created a water taxi facility in St. Kitts so that people traveling to and from St. Kitts could have that comfort as they now do in Nevis? So when you hear this talk sometimes, I don't always respond, because I think in time some things become obvious. You remember the old adage of the emperor who was not wearing clothes? He thought he was so fashionable that he was tricked. Somebody tell him, I'll make you the finest garment. And he paid big money for nothing. When he parading down naked, it took some youngster who bawled out and said, but the man is without clothes, he's naked. And then the truth became obvious. So when you see the accusations came, I want the people of St. Kitts and Nevis to understand that Nevis has sober, sensible leadership. We're not erratic. We're not given to emotion. We understand what the assignment requires us to do. And the people of Nevis have consistently said, CCM, Mr. Brantley, we want you, we trust you, and we want you to continue in this vein. This is not by accident. So when I hear the hubbub, oh, they get money and they waste the money, they squander the money. I said, look at what we have done with the money. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Because we have managed the resources in Nevis in such a way and invested in Nevis in such a way that we now have the basic pillars for our development in place. Reliable electricity. With the additional investment that we're now making in water, we anticipate having reliable water. We have already invested significantly in water. We're doing more very shortly. I just told you the contracts were signed for drilling. We have reliable transportation in terms of that water taxi facility. And we have a road network in Nevis now which is second to none. And we have not stopped. We continue to build out our infrastructure. If that, ladies and gentlemen, is bad spending, then I plead guilty. I have spent badly on the development of the island of Nevis. And it is there for all to see. Some will criticize. We live in a democracy, and so that is expected. But when you compare that performance and what is accused of being bad spending, and you compare the fact that that was done with a fraction, a pittance, some scraps from the table. You're eating the little bit of gravy left in the pot when the whole pot of soup is being eaten in Bastia. And with the whole pot of soup in Bastia, can people still not gonna water? And I see some people jumping all over Prime Minister Drew and his administration. I'm not getting into that. I've said to Prime Minister Drew, you and I have a good working relationship, Prime Minister. We are working together for the advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis. The politics is what it is. And I know that Prime Minister Drew and the Labour Party are more than competent to defend themselves and to fight their political battles. But when I hear sometimes the attacks on Prime Minister Drew, oh, you've been there nearly 2 years and can't got no water. I entered the federal government in 2015 and can't had no water in 2015. I want sometimes people to step back and consider that I entered the federal government as part of a team unity administration in 2015. And one of the pressing issues that we met on the table when we got into government was the lack of water in Keon. 2016 come, 17 come, 18 come, 19 come, 20 come, 21 come, 22 come. Nothing was done about Keon and water. Drew Rich in 22, 23 come, 24 come, and you want to kill Prime Minister Drew and his team. Now the buck stops with him. If there's a water problem in Sinkit, he absolutely must find a solution. But I'm saying some of us need to just hush and let the government go ahead about its business. Because when you look at some of the problems that existed, and let me add that from 2015 the records would show until 2022 under Team Unity administration, this country perhaps made the most money it has ever made from the Citizenship by Investment program. I want to add that we made the most money that we have ever made. So money was not the issue. Money was coming in here like manna from heaven. And every year you hear about surplus and surplus and surplus. But what is the value of having a surplus and touting yourself as an economic and financial guru? And when you turn on the pipe in Keon, you can't get water. What is the value in that? Better you spend the surplus and put water in the pipes. And while Keon and those areas were suffering from water, don't feel that the rest of Sinkit had water like that, because people in Frigate Bay, people elsewhere in Sinkit told me it was a regular thing. And it has been a regular thing for years in Sinkits that water goes off every night. Those things don't happen in Nevis. When you hear that we are rationing water in Nevis, you know it's because of the circumstances that I have described. It hasn't been due to a lack of investment. So when I hear the talk that money gone on Nevis and Mark Brantley is a bad spender, well, look at the proof of the pudding now. You don't see nobody in Nevis a head water a beer out a bucket. The reality is that money was spent in Nevis on fundamental developmental issues. That's what we did over here. Food security, that's where we spend money. Our hospital, that's where we spend money. Our security in terms of crime and criminality and combating them with that CCTV center in town. When you go in there, you can't go in there because it's national security. But I have been afforded the privilege of visiting. You think you're in Nassau? Putting up cameras all across the island of Nevis. In fact, we're going to roll out our next set of cameras going up to Gingerland in short order, I'm told, by the end of this month. All across Charlestown, coverage in terms of CCTV to try and dampen the enthusiasm of criminals to get involved in criminality on this island. That was deemed to be bad spending. I was said to be a bad spender for investing in those things. When next you take the water taxi, ask yourself, was that bad spending? Ask yourself that. And when I hear some in Nevis jump up and say, achoo, he's a bad spender, because they were being led astray by those whose only effort is to mislead. I am not here necessarily trying to defend myself or the administration, because the people have spoken. You know, a lot has been said about Mark Brantley and the CCM. Alexis Jeffers and Eric Evelyn were the candidates at the federal level. But you know what I always remind people? In 2015, Team Unity won 7 seats out of 11. CCM won 2 in Nevis. PLP won 1 in Sinkits. And the People's Action Movement won 4 in St. Kitts. 4 plus 2 plus 1 gives you 7. In 2020, after 5 years in government, Team Unity won 9 seats out of 11. CCM swept the board in Nevis, winning all 3. So we went from 2 to all 3. In fact, the first time that it has ever happened in Nevis was under my leadership of the CCM. We got all 3 seats in 2020. The People's Action Movement kept the 4 seats that they had. And the PLP increased their tally from 1 to 2 seats. 2 plus 4, 6 plus 3, 9. When Team Unity imploded and we went back to the polls in August of 2022, PAM went from 4 seats to 1. PLP went from 2 seats to 1. CCM went from 3 seats to 3 seats. I think that little bit of political history is important. Because what it says that in that tripartite arrangement of PAM, PLP and CCM, with all that was said about me and the CCM, when the dust settled, the CCM was holding the same seats in 2022 with the backlash that there was nationally against Team Unity as it held in 2020. That is important, ladies and gentlemen, because it means that the people of this country saw that the Concerned Citizens Movement was still their best option. And that is why Alexis was returned, Eric was returned, and the sheriff was returned. The people returned all 3 of us. They said, what we gave you in 2020, we're going to give you back. And this is despite the constant attacks on us from within when we were still sitting in a cabinet. Imagine you're in a cabinet and people in there are funding your opponents in Nevis. You're sitting in the cabinet. People in there, remember when we brought the film industry to Nevis? First they laughed at me. Oh, stripping is he say doing? But when they realized that there was some seriousness to it, rather than saying, let us sit down, brother, let us see how we can build this thing together. Man, they started our kind of secret meeting, telling the people, man, we want Aya to move to St. Kitts. Why are they Nevis? Aya come over here. Well, the people went, you know. People jump up and went. And then within short order, they reached back to Nevis and said, boy, no, all that glitters isn't gold. And we're able to do 9 movies here during COVID. 9. I say the last one, Strictly Confidential, starring Elizabeth Hurley, has just premiered in New York. And on The View, Elizabeth Hurley and her son, who's the director, they mention Nevis. You see, who God bless, no man curse. And we must remember that. A lot of them went the length and breadth. CCM and Mark Brantley is the worst thing. Them a bad spender. Them don't know what them a do. Them don't know how to manage. But when the 2022 elections were called, only the Concerned Citizens Movement returned the same seats. So what does that tell you? So that is why sometimes I hear some of them talking and I just lock my ear. If I was like Sir Eric Williams, the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I would take out my hearing aid and put it down on the table. That's it, me don't want to hear thing from you. Me don't want to hear thing because you are in no position to lecture. You're in no position to teach anything because the evidence is there that the vast sums money was running down College Street got from the CBI. And with money running down College Street, got Cairn still ain't got no water. Skellig ain't buy 1 generator. And me in Nevis buying generator and investing in water infrastructure, and you say I'm a bad spender. With water running down College Street, got St. Kitts not got a water taxi facility. In Nevis we invested in that but we are bad spenders in Nevis. I want people to understand that when you're serious about development and you're serious about moving your country forward, you don't got time sometimes for all the natural neighbors of negativity. I say ignore the noise. Some say it is disrespectful. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. When I say ignore the noise, I say so because it is important that we separate the wheat from the chaff. Because if all you engage is just kicking every bark in the yap, 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 you kick, you will never get up the hill. And when I sit back now and I reflect and I said, you know what? All of us should have been bad spenders. Because if all of us were bad spenders, Keon would have water and they wouldn't have a problem today. If all of us were bad spenders, Skellig wouldn't have gone into any crisis because there would have been investment over time in upgrading Skellig and in upgrading equipment. And while it's easy to blame the current government as they're blaming Prime Minister Drew, that is for Drew and his people to respond. But we must not forget the atrocious behavior when it came to the opportunity to make investment. I tell you all, I went into government in 2015, and one of the first issues on the table was the water problems in Keon. We met a plan when we got into government, left there to develop water by bead. The plan was there. And when sometimes I hear them talking, I said, we must ask why the plan was never implemented. And the answer is that the person then in charge said, no, he's not going to do any business with bead. He wants another company. When he was told that's going to lead to legal problems and will be sued and all that, he was adamant, and so nothing happened. I want you all to reflect on this, you know. Nothing happened for 5 years because one man said he will not do it. Now, is that service to country or is that service to self? Because it's all about self-aggrandizement. I used to sit back sometimes and I used to say, well, they must know what they must do, because me in the cabinet and Mr. Eugene Hamilton, who's the representative for number 8, me say, if he not make noise, what me make noise for? If he not make noise to say that water must come to Keon, why Mark Brantley must go down there and make noise? I know people may say that is not the right approach, but sometimes you have to look at things that all you sitting around the table as equals. And one man say he not do nothing unless it's his company, the one that he select, going to get the work. And just like that, no water. 5 years. It is only after 2020 and the portfolios change. And I must give Sean Richards some credit because he came in and he then tried to activate insofar as the plan that we had there since 2015 that we met to ameliorate the water situation in Keon. But that government was short-lived. And so we only had, what, 18 months? And then the government collapsed. And so Drew them have now come in. And what is the plan that Drew them are the same plan, you know? The same plan from 2015 involving bead. The same drilling in Keon and some well in Shadwell. That was the plan that we met, you know? So the same plan from 2015 took until 2022 when Prime Minister Drew and his team took over to then they talk about implementing that plan. So I'm not here tonight to defend anybody or to attack anybody, but I think the facts are important when we talk about these things. Because when I was being attacked in high and low places as being a bad spender, I was making sure that I was spending money on developing Nevis. One of the things I've prided myself on as the premier of this island, you have never heard any whiff of scandal involving my administration. If it's one thing I will say about the Honorable Vance Emery, when he was the premier leader of this party, he said to us, he don't want to hear nothing about nobody thieving nothing. He don't want to hear nothing about any corruption, not in his government. And I said to the fellas, the same thing applies here. And I am proud that 2024 will mark 17 years that I'm in elective politics. And with all that they've said about me, and my God, they've said everything, they have never been able to say that I take up what I didn't put down. And they've never been able to say of my government that we've taken up what we have not put down. And I preach it to my guys every day. Let us be the example of servant leaders that the island wants and that the island needs. And so if they say that we are bad spenders, we have spent badly on the development of the island of Nevis. When you get a chance, go down at the Pinnis Park. See what has been done down there with the assistance of the government and people of Taiwan. God bless them. We're going to open the rest of it in short order. I went down there just last weekend. They had a big opening of a new bar and restaurant down there. Lord, when people come home for Culturama, down there going to be like Christmas. Bars, restaurants, things to do. The park up there to go and relax. The smoothie place, Seal My Sip. Across there we have a video arcade for the kids. You want to go swimming, go and swim. We're going to have foot baths. We're going to have showers. We're going to have security. New security headquarters down there. We're beefing up. Parking. Lighting. It is going to be the mecca for entertainment in the country. The mecca for entertainment at Pinnis. That's what's going to happen. I want to create an environment down there with our boardwalks and all that, where families feel comfortable going down, walking around, having something to eat, having something to drink, using the beach, using the park, bathroom facilities. We have it all. And that they say is bad spending. There's no place in the Federation that will be comparable to what we're doing at Pinnis. Don't take my word for it. Go there and see it. I was down there for the opening of this new bar. Chill Spot, I think they call it. Chill something. The former Chevys. And I again welcome the confidence that these investors have shown in flocking into Nevis. We have a new Zanzi. We have a new now Chill Spot, I think it's called. I'm not remembering the name, but the former Chevys. We have a new Turtle Time. Sunshine has expanded. Lime has expanded. We have a new there, Nevis Peak, which is going to also be a brewery. Imagine now Nevis going to have its own beer. I hope you're all hearing me, you know. All of these are new investments. We have L'Escale, French restaurant. We have Luna. We have Drift. All new restaurants opening up. We have Sophie's over at the Heritage Village. You must go over there. The best local food you could get. It is amazing what is happening on this island of Nevis. We have Oasis. How could I forget Oasis? Korean food. That's available over there in St. James. So much is happening. And what we're doing is creating the infrastructural environment to make all that is happening possible. They say that they know investors. Will I ask you, well, who built up all of them place there? You see all them names I just called there? All that is private investment. Drive around Nevis as I do every weekend. Once I'm feeling myself, I get up and I take a drive around the island. I go up into the hills, I go on to the side roads, and the level of construction activity happening now in Nevis is unimaginable. Yes, it is true we don't have a big hotel project that's happening. That is true. Would that be nice? Absolutely. But in the meantime, the level of investment that we're seeing in homes. Just this morning I went into Chimney Crescent. One of my constituents in there had a problem. I went there and the guys are sorting out that problem. So if you're listening, we're resolving the issue, some drainage issues there. But I just want our people to recognize development is a process. And we have not been willy-nilly in Nevis. We have not been foolish. We have been very deliberate in our approach to development. Water, electricity, roads, infrastructure such as the water taxi facility, all of those are investments that are yielding tangible benefits for the people of Nevis. And all of that being done, and nobody has ever been able to say that Brantley administration thief this or thief that. No, 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 no. We were raised right. Hebrew boys and girls. And so I want our people to appreciate that when we talk about development, look at what has been done and look at what we continue to try to do. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 10 past the hour of 9 o'clock. I believe I've spoken long enough. I'm going to open the lines. I hope not to say anything further. I hope the phones are going to ring, and I hope you are going to put your issues on the table. The numbers are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call to be a part of this show this evening. And I believe the phones have started. So let me go directly to the phones and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Miss Sherry.
Good evening, my friend.
And how are you tonight?
I'm well, thank you.
Titus 2 verse 11 and 12. For the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people. It reaches out to say no to the ungodliness and worldly passion, and to live self-control, upright and ungodly life in his present age. Have a good evening. May God continue to bless you. Good night.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your scripture as always. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. And if you're online, please join us, comment, share. Let's get into the conversation. We have about 55 minutes left, and I'm hopeful that you will relieve my tired voice and you do the talking moving forward. We have some callers to call each week, and some of them take a bit of a time. This is your time. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening, Miss Honorable Brantley. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. Could you lift your voice a bit? We're not hearing you so clearly.
Okay. Yeah, you're hearing me better now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to read my scripture.
Yes.
From Romans chapter 12, and I'm reading just 2 verses. I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. That's my scripture tonight. And Mr. Brantley, the country is running good and you're doing a good job. Also the Prime Minister over in St. Kitts. I do admire you all very much. Okay?
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you so much for that, and
Okay.
thank you for that. As we wait for the phones to ring, we are encouraging persons to call again, 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. But as we wait for the phones to ring, let me just say that I did have the opportunity to meet with the Honorable Prime Minister last week. We had a meeting which lasted just almost 2 hours by my tally. We discussed a number of issues, including our airport project in Nevis. I briefed him on what we were hoping to achieve. We discussed the geothermal project, which was also quite significant, and other issues, including the Citizenship by Investment program and this whole issue of fair share as between the islands from the proceeds of tax and related matters. So those matters are all moving. I believe that in due course we will have an announcement of some of the decisions that we hope to flow. I have followed up that discussion with discussions with the Honorable Attorney General on some of the matters coming out of that meeting, and I'm optimistic, as I said, that we will have some decisions being announced in short order. So I'm looking forward to that, certainly, and I want to publicly again say that dialogue is better than no dialogue, cooperation is better than no cooperation, and engagement and conversations which are occurring at a regular level between Nevis and St. Kitts, that those are important to move the country forward. And so I certainly look forward to continuing to engage with the Honorable Prime Minister and his team and to try to work through some of the issues between the two islands. But I think once the door is open, once there's an opportunity for engagement, then we stand a good chance to find solutions to the various problems. And so I'm thankful for that, and will continue, of course, to update the public here on this show, in my monthly press conference and otherwise. The numbers again, 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. If you want to be a part of the show this evening, those are the numbers to call and to be a part of this conversation here on The Mark, which is, of course, coming to you live and lively via the auspices of VON Radio, the voice of Nevis. And VON Radio has been with us for all these years, providing incredible service to the people of Nevis and St. Kitts and the wider region. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on The Mark.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening to you.
I want to know if I can just build a cistern in my yard without a plan.
You would have to get approval from planning for it.
Okay.
Right? So get somebody to.
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, I'm listening.
Yes. You get somebody to do that design for you, and you go to planning.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. Good. But it will be good to get that done, and I'm happy, caller, that you have heard me and that you're talking about building a cistern. Some people, if you can't build a cistern, then certainly there are the water catchment. There are these tanks that you can get, these hard plastic tanks. It's something that's helpful. And then I'm hearing that some people, because planning requires it, have built a cistern, but they have not connected the cistern. They don't have the spouting connecting. Please, that doesn't make any sense. So if you go out there and you need your spouting, put up the spouting, connect it so that the water from your roof is harvested and goes into that cistern. As I said, if you can take yourself off the government supply for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever that period may be, you are helping the situation, and you're saving money as well, because it means that you don't have to pay all that water bill. Let's go back to the phones and continue to take your calls. Good evening, you're on The Mark.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening, can you lift your voice, please?
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard earlier, indeed kudos to Minister Brand for the roads in Charlestown and Marin Avenue. My concern is Cherrygan. As a resident of Cherrygan, the roads in Cherrygan are deplorable. It's been 15 years and those roads have never been completed. And they're getting worse.
Yes, well, caller, I am actually curious that you would have made this comment tonight of all nights, because Cherry Garden was part of our cabinet discussions just today. I was indicating to the minister that some works needed to be done on those roads, because I was through there recently. Not all of them, but some of them certainly need some work. And I was quite surprised to hear that the roads had never been finished. Well, I did not know that. I thought the roads were finished and were just deteriorating. But he was explaining that the roads were never finished in Cherry Garden. So we will need to come through and do some assessment and do some remedial work. I want to commit to the people of Cherry Gardens publicly that that work will be done. We have had some issues within that neighborhood, as you know. We had to fix, I believe, over 50 malfunctioning septic arrangements over there. That contributed to the roads as well, because as you know, a lot of people had their wastewater running into the road because of the septic and soakaway issues that they had. And so that helped to deteriorate the roads. But I am conscious of it, caller. Believe me, the matter came up only today in the cabinet, and we will have to put something together to see what relief we can bring. So we're very conscious. It's one of the larger communities on the island, and so we're very conscious of it. So I'll give that commitment that we'll have to look to see what can be done in short order. Okay, thank you very much for bringing it to the fore. But Cherry Garden should know that we're not going to forget them, and we're going to do what we can to remedy. As I said, it's not all of the roads, but certainly some of them are in pretty bad shape. And only today I learned that those roads were never finished. So when that housing development was done, the roads were never really finished. I did not know that. I learned that today from the minister, who explained that he and his team were looking at it to find some resolution. So caller, thanks for that. And that is our commitment, that we will get to it. We are trying to get to the various communities. Some communities have no roads at all, and so we are dealing with those. I could think of my friends in Brown Pasture, for example, who have been complaining bitterly for years that they really have no road. And if I've tried to drive it myself, so I know the difficulties that they are having. And I can tell them as well that relief is on the way. We are shortly going to have that road tendered in order for us to move forward with it. So you're going to get your road, and Cherry Gardens, we're going to try to sort you out as well. We have to be methodical about it because, of course, money is always a concern, but we will get to it. You have our commitment on that. It is 17 minutes past the hour. We're taking your calls. Let me go back to the phones and say, good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Premier.
Good evening to you.
Have you looked at the Rollins Road as yet, as promised?
Which aspect of the Rollins Road?
That is from Market Shop to Sambo Shop.
Okay, that has not been under discussion recently, I must admit. But certainly, I know that the Honorable Eric Evelyn has brought that up before. I am not so sure that that road will be on tap for this year, because that was not one of the roads that we had targeted for this year, based on what I have seen. But we are cognizant of it. That is a main road that needs to be done. We had tried to do a part of it, as you know, going across the top, but certainly that road needs to be done. It's long overdue. So I hear you. It is not on the cards for this year. I'm sorry about that, but that is not one of the roads that we will be focusing on. But when we get to it in short order, we will certainly let the people of Rollins know. We don't do roads without doing some public consultation. So you look out for that, and then we'll have those discussions. We'll do the design and hopefully get to it.
Thank you very much, and
Okay.
have a good night.
Thank you very much, and you're most welcome. And Honorable Eric Evelyn, I hope you're listening, and Honorable Spencer Brand, I hope you're listening, because it really means, and you know, the thing about roads is that the more successful we have been with roads, the more the demand for roads increases, because people who now drive through Bath Village and drive through Brownhill and drive through Bridges and drive through Shaw's Road and drive on the Island Main Road and on, they're saying, listen, we need similar roads. So we now need to respond to that, because the standard has increased so dramatically that persons are now saying they want more and better roads. And so we are working on that. I believe the minister indicated today that we'll be doing some roads in Jessops shortly. We'll be doing some roads as well in Maynard Ground, I think it's called. And so relief is coming. And so this caller from Rollins, or calling about Rollins Road, I accept that that road needs to be done, because it is really the main road running through the heart of Rollins, and we will get to it. And I know that the ministers are taking notes and paying attention. We've also committed to doing the road there in Church Ground, because we think that's a critical bypass road. That is Church Ground coming around to Hamilton. And so we look forward to all of those projects coming on stream, but we will do them systematically. We have the last main road project, I think, before we can take some rest, would really be the area of that road in Fountain and Mount Lily. The Westbury side isn't so bad, but the Fountain, Mount Lily, that needs some remedial work, especially when you go around what I think they call Fountain Gut. So we are aware of all of these callers. We're trying our best to get to them, but we recognize that there are pressure. There is pressure. There are some pressures associated with the financing of some of these efforts. And we thought that we would devote financing early in the year to getting the island ready for Culturama 50. And so that's what we are focused on at this point, notwithstanding that we continue work at Butlers and we continue some work in Brownhill to finish off those projects. Talking about projects, I had a conversation with a dear friend, someone who was from Bath Village, but said to me that they had lived for over 50 years in England. And the biggest compliment that they could have given to me, they said to me that they came back and they did not recognize Bath Village. And I thought that was a compliment. I know some people may say it's not, but it was a compliment for me, because somebody had told me some time ago that if Columbus came back to Nevis, he would recognize Nevis. And that was certainly an insult to me. So to hear this lady say that she was born and grew up in Bath, and she came and could not recognize Bath because of the changes we had made, the infrastructural improvements we have made, I was quite pleased to hear that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking for your calls. It is 20 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. We have 40 minutes left. The numbers to call are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. If you want to be a part of the show, these are the numbers that you would call to get in. Please don't leave your call until 2 minutes to 10, and then you have a lot to say. The lines are now open, and you can call now and have your say for the next 40 minutes. That's the invitation for those out there who may have something to offer to the show this evening. If the ministers are listening, I would invite them to call as well. We have some issues on the table here about roads and all that, so they can certainly chime in as well, because as the public would know, I'm here hosting the show, but I'm not necessarily the minister with responsibility for infrastructure. Let's go back to the phones then and take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hi, good night.
Hi, good night.
The roads from Westbury through Fountain, Mount Lily Camps, would they be addressed?
I just mentioned that, caller. That is one of the projects that we have to undertake. That project is an important project. We see Camps, Mount Lily, and Fountain. That particular area is particularly troubling. That has to be done. The Westbury side isn't so bad, but certainly we feel that has to be done. And I mentioned, especially the area, I think it's called Fountain Gut, coming around the bend there as you go from Fountain and into Mount Lily. I think that area needs to be addressed. So the short answer is yes, we will get to that as well. It's one of the last major projects that we have to do.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, you're most welcome. All right, we're taking your calls. And we're talking roads, we're talking various things, and we're encouraging you to call in and share your views and opinions. We have somebody holding? Okay, so callers, again, 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show. Now, while we wait for the phones to ring, okay, here we go. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
According to talk about Matchman Road. Matchman Road need doing and Cook's Ground need finish. They start Cook Ground and the finish at now. And it has gone over nearly 5 years. They start it and they do nothing else.
So Matchman Roads and Cook's Ground, you say?
Yes, they need doing.
Okay.
Especially Matchman Road, because it has a lot of hole in the road. Okay then, thanks.
Thank you very much. I think that the callers this evening are really proving what I've said, that all across the island, the villages and the hamlets, in the highways and byways, people are saying that they want better infrastructure. We understand that. We are responding to it. We have been accused by the opposition of doing too many roads. They say all we do is build roads. But we understand that each time we build roads, we build a road, that road contributes to the value of properties in that area. Property values in Brownhill have gone up. Property values in Bath have gone up. Property values in Braziers have gone up. Where you see we do road infrastructure, and remember I told you, anytime we do roads, we also do water upgrades, that we have had the benefit of ordinary citizens in this country having an appreciation in their property. We have built walls, we have created new aesthetics, and I believe that people are pleased. But what happens as a result is that it increases the appetite of everyone else. And so people are saying they need their road as well. I know, for example, up in University Heights, I don't want them to think that we've forgotten them, that they too have had some issues in terms of roads. But just based on the sheer number of requests and various roads that we've heard, just in this short program this evening, you understand that there is a tremendous amount of work to be done. And that comes at a tremendous cost. So I just want our people to be patient with us. I know it's hard sometimes for people to be patient, but to be patient with us, because we are aware and we are coming, and we will seek to do them in a systematic way. That's as what I can say, as much as I can say on the issue of roads. We're still taking your calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. And as I said, if you're out there, particularly my ministers and the ministers who are responsible for various areas, and you want to call and add to or address any of the issues that have arisen this evening, I invite you to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On The Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley, and we're taking your calls. And let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're On The Mark.
Hi, Mark. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening, good evening.
Thanks.
I can't hear you good. You need to raise your voice, please. I don't know what's happening tonight.
Okay, good evening, Mark.
Good evening.
Yeah, this is Wise.
Yeah, boys, how you doing?
Guys, for doing the road up here in that land, and although it's not yet finished, you're making that land into a highway, and I quite agree with the corner that Rollins Road needs doing. But thanks you guys for what you guys have done for doing the road up here in that land.
Thanks a lot, my brother. And good seeing you today.
Yeah, Mark. And I forgot to tell you that you should get your team together to play in the league.
Oh, in the cricket league?
Yeah.
All right.
No, you can get a team together. You and the ministers and get a team together and we could play a match over there.
But none of them fellas could play cricket, man.
Just like the match that we are playing with the Unity team. And I know you were telling me that the man stone you out, but up here we don't stone me over here.
Alright, yeah, Gary, the fellas come over from Singers, man. They must stone too hard.
Okay, man.
Alright.
Have a good night.
Thanks a million and thanks for the call. And happy that we've been able to do the Zetlands Road. I drove by this some time ago, and yes, the work is quite impressive. And again, kudos to Public Works and what they've done there. And it just shows that, ladies and gentlemen, as you listen, we are trying to get there. Zetlands, for example, they've had some complaints there for some time about problems with water, and we're able to resolve it. So I'm grateful for that. Let's go back to the phones. We're taking your calls. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Premier.
Good evening, Deputy Premier. How are you?
How are you doing, sir?
I am well. Good to hear your voice.
It's good to hear you as well. And of course, I've been listening, and I know that you would have mentioned earlier, you hope that we are listening. And of course, I definitely listen once I'm available every Wednesday. I'm in tuned and logged on to hear what's happening, and of course, to hear what you're saying, and of course, to listen to what the folks are saying as well. And of course, a lot of people has been calling about roads, Honorable Premier. And, you know, it's strange because the opposition has accused that when we do roads, we shouldn't talk about roads because that is our responsibility, and that's not really development. But I always tell people, and Mr. Premier, you can bear me out on this. Whenever we go to campaign, one of the main things people ask for is roads, and we have to listen to the people, and we have to try to give the people what they want. So, I mean, when the opposition is going to accuse us of not saying that, well, you do roads, well, that is a responsibility. So you don't need to take any credit for that. But as I said, we have to listen to the people, and the people, every time we go out, one of the main things they ask for is the road. And as you rightly have said, and as you have said many times, that our people have become so accustomed to excellent roads. That is why everybody wants the road to be done. And I want to assure the people of Gingerland that definitely I'm always making representation for the roads in Gingerland to be done. I recall that when we sat down, I think in one of our first cabinet meetings, when we were re-elected, I did indicate that the Rollins Road has to be done in this term. I don't know if you recall that. But I said it clearly that the Rollins Road has to be done in this term. And so definitely the Rollins Road is on the radar. The people of other parts of Gingerland have been lobbying as well. Only today I would have made some lobbying for a part of Gingerland to be done. And so all the roads will come, but they will come in due course. As you rightly indicated, Premier, all cannot be done at the same time. But the people of Nevis must give us credit, because I think we have done a tremendous job in terms of road construction and the road network. Mr. Premier, you said, I think probably you mentioned it tonight, that probably Nevis has the best water system in the region. And I would say that with our roads as well. We have some of the best roads in the region. In fact, Deputy Premier, I just interject because I was
entertaining some investors who came in the other day. It was a large group, about 14 people. And in the course of dinner with them, they said that they frequent the Bahamas and Belize. Both gentlemen who were talking said that they are avid fishermen. So they go to Belize and the Bahamas to fish. And they also mentioned Barbados that they frequented. And they indicated that one of the things that they found was so impressive about Nevis was the roads.
Right.
They said they could not believe a little island our size had the quality of roads that we had.
Precisely.
And they compared us favorably to those much bigger territories in the region that they said they frequented. And my heart was glad, because I said, you know, sometimes it's people from outside who come in and can commend. Because those of us who are here spend all the time on negativity.
Precisely.
So we would see 10 miles of beautifully paved and asphalted road, and we take a picture of a pothole.
Precisely.
And that is what we talk about, and forget that you have 10 miles of paved road, and the only reason you're noticing the pothole is because the rest of the road is so good.
Precisely. And not only Nevisians here, but Nevisians abroad who live overseas, where lots of potholes are as well. They want to focus on that as well. And, you know, it is unfortunate that people could be so dishonest for political reasons. You know, I had a visit this week. I think it was only yesterday. I believe you remember Dave Webb from Right Here in Hanley's Road. You know, right below the church there.
Yes.
And Dave, he spoke to me on the phone on Monday. And he said, I'm sure he don't mind I call his name, because he said he listens to the program every week, he and his wife. And they are visiting. Dave has been here for many, many years. And he said, when he spoke to me on Monday, he said, I have to come to see you. And sure enough, he showed up at my office on yesterday morning. And he said, I had to come because I listen to you all, and everything you all say about this island and the development is true. He said, I don't listen to the negatives, because he could not believe when he landed in Nevis at Wally and then he came to Gingerland. He couldn't believe what he's seen. He has been driving around, and his wife has said the same thing. And he said the people of Nevis need to appreciate what y'all are doing, because he said he used to live in St. Thomas. And he said, these kind of roads, you don't find these kind of roads in St. Thomas, which is a U.S. territory. You can't find these kind of roads in St. Thomas. And in Little Nevis, and with the little resources that we have, and we have been managing so well, as you say, we have been spending bad, but the bad spending has turned out to be good. Right? And so Dave was saying, I mean, he absolutely couldn't believe, after not being here on Nevis for so long, that so many things have happened in Little Nevis. He said, even when I drive down to Hanley's Road, even when I know what Hanley's Road used to be.
Of course.
When I stay at Market Shop and I look over to Best Buy. And you know, he was just marveling at what has happened on this beautiful island of Nevis. And our people need to appreciate it.
But Deputy Premier, even in terms of investment and development, look at how that whole area from Market Shop going across the Best Buy is being transformed.
Of course.
You have gas station, you have 869, you have restaurant, bars, you have, you know, that's why I keep saying to our people that we must look in a very practical way at what is happening on the island.
And he even said, when he stood up at Best Buy and he looked at the transformation of the Gingerland Secondary School, he said, my school, I couldn't recognize it. He said, the place is looking so good. And, you know, he was just full of praise for what we're doing. And as I said, people who are here, and divisions who are here, and divisions who are overseas, find all the little negatives to say. But as we say, we will press on. We will continue to do the business of the people, and I believe the right thinking persons will appreciate and see the development of what is happening on Nevis.
All right.
Once again, I just want to assure the good people of Gingerland that yes, we know all the roads that needs to be done, and we're going to get to them eventually. And I also want to say thank you as well, Honorable Premier, for organizing that thing with Anguilla, with the fruit trees. I think it's a welcome move by us, and we were very, very happy to facilitate that initiative, and we wish the people of Anguilla every success.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much, because once you learned about this, you jumped into action.
Definitely.
And you and Huey Sargent in particular, because I know Huey was very involved with it as well.
Yes.
So thank you for that, and Anguilla feels quite happy. And as I've said to them, I'm putting you under some pressure, because I said to them they want more. Let us know.
Well, we will always be willing to help.
All right. Good.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. That's the Deputy Premier calling in, the Honorable Eric Evelyn. I thank him because he's always one to call in and to give his own updates, and I'm very grateful to him for that. We are taking your calls. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Premier.
Good evening.
Maki Schwartz here.
Hey, Maki. How you doing, brother?
I am well.
Yes. I was just talking about you and your relay.
Well, that is exactly why I'm calling, actually, because I'm so excited about this relay that I just wanted to put it on this show so that who haven't heard about it yet will hear about it. And basically what we're doing, myself and Delvin Phillips have joined forces, and we have dubbed this relay meet a Nevis 5-star relay championship. And this is on the cards for Sunday, the 28th of April, at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. Basically, what would happen then is that each parish would be competing against one another. So, for example, it really doesn't matter which school you go to, it's where you live. So, we have ages, age categories under 11, under 13, under 15, under 17, and we have something for the adults too. So we have a 18 plus category. And the idea here is to just run strictly relays. So we have 4x1, 4x2s, 4x3s, 4x4, a sprint medley that would comprise of 100, another 100, then a 200, and a 400 meters, so 800 meters total. And I must, at this point, pay homage to the sponsors, because they came through for me in a very big way. And I would like to say that St. James was sponsored, or is sponsored by the Finnish Dutch, Ex-Petrol, and Islander Water Sports. St. Thomas's, sponsored by National Bank. St. Paul's, sponsored by the Bank of Nevis. St. John's is sponsored by Estel Hosford and Carberry. And St. George's is sponsored by the Nevis Cooperative Credit Union. And so there's great buzz and enthusiasm in the year, and we're trying to extend the athletic season, actually, because we're of the view that athletes only get better with competition. And so we're trying to encourage more races, more competition. The idea here is that we start this athletic relay meet in Nevis, and we're hoping that the idea will catch on in St. Kitts, and at some point that we would have the best of 4 from each island competing, and just giving the athletes another avenue to show off their athletic skills. And hopefully we could, some coaches may see the talent and provide athletic scholarships for these youngsters. So that is really what we're trying to do, and promote community camaraderie, sportsmanship, and just giving athletes a chance to shine, really.
Well, Maki, I want you to thank you for that. I think that is an excellent update, and to thank you for what you're doing as well, because I think we live in a community where everybody feels that everything is the government's responsibility. And here you're demonstrating that you can go out, you can get sponsors, and you can put on an excellent event which brings the community together, extends the season, as you're saying, and do it from the resources of the private sector. I think that that's very important. And I would urge more people, because the facility is there. It's one of the best tracks in the region. It's a 9-lane IAAF certified surface. and with a 200-meter warm-up track. So it's really good quality, and we have seen some very fast times on it over the last sporting season. So I want to commend you publicly. I did mention earlier it's on the 28th, I think, of April.
That's correct.
Right? And starting at 1 o'clock, and I think people should go out and support in their numbers. So kudos to you and the team, to you and Delvin, and I wish this every success.
Appreciate the time. Thank you.
All right, good. That was Mackie Truss, the man behind A1 Farms, who's doing some phenomenal work in agriculture, but also a sports enthusiast. And I believe he was a big-time sprinter in his day as well. I hope I'm not saying something that is inaccurate, but we had a heyday, I think, here of athletes at the time here in Nevis. I could remember a chap called Hezron Mackie. There was one of those Mortons. What was his name now? Oh boy, the name slips me. But you had quite a few. Jibbo, Tedo. We had a couple fellas who were quite good. Carl Ambrister. I remember them all. Philson Lescott did a phenomenal job back in the day. And good to see that people like Mackie are still involved in a serious way. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
First of all, I want to condemn again the silence of my government for all the bloodshed happening in Sudan and the Gaza Strip. We think that we should be our brother's keepers as we claim to be a Christian nation, but silence with all of this. That we are being controlled to put up something over our mouth.
Can you raise your voice a bit, caller, please?
I said maybe we are being controlled to put something over our mouth that we cannot speak out on the behalf of humanity.
And you're talking about which conflict? Which conflict, caller?
The conflict in Gaza and the conflict in Sudan.
Okay.
There's a lot of innocent blood being shed in these days, and we are silent. And this is not right for humanity. Even here in St. Kitts, I think we are silent with all of this killing and justice denied the people. I think it's time for us now to double our efforts to make the world a better place. We could make money and build a house, and if there's no justice, it is no use.
Yes.
And then the next thing I want to ask you and Prime Minister Joe to assemble a cricket team. Way back in the 70s, Tom and Labour used to play cricket against one another. What about you all doing something to help bring the country together too? I mean, two cabinets could play against one another. If I can play football, play cricket. And then finally, 400 years now, since the British brought us here. Time for reflection. I'll keep calling the next 4 years. We could have 5 years of reflection. 400 years. It's too much of good people pass and they have got no recognition. It's time to reflect on them. We didn't build, we didn't drop out the sky. We are on the backs of people came before. And it's time for us to get up and recognize a lot of these people in St. Kitts and in Nevis. Because you cannot, and then one thing that is important, Nevis has a record which is not very good at all. The most lashes any slave ever received in slave was in Nevis. There's something for us for here to celebrate that man who received all those lashes. And so we have a lot of things to do about our history is hidden. And we have to say, we're celebrating history this year in Culturama. It's time enough to embrace history. And the last thing, I met a man here from Guadeloupe there, and he told me we went to Nevis for Culturama. And we wondering if I don't have any boat coming over or to go over to Nevis for Culturama. We keep talking about the monkeys over there in St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's quite a lot going on for Nevis and Culturama over here. Soon I'm going to have to send even 2 posters for Culturama so I could put them in 2 identical places. Right?
Alright. Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for that. And it'd be really good to see people from Guadeloupe, as you say, come over. Let's go back to the phones. I think somebody's holding. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I'm calling from Belize.
From Belize?
Yes, calling from Belize.
Oh, wow.
Listen to your show.
Thank you so much.
I was watching your Prime Minister yesterday. I think it was a roundtable conference, and it would appear that there are a lot of things going on good things going on in St. Kitts and Nevis. I even listened to the Prime Minister saying that the Premier of Nevis and the federal government are working on some programs that will benefit Nevis eventually and the entire federation. So it was good to hear what's happening in your country, and I just called to let you know that as far as we are from you, we are tuning in and listening to what is happening in your country.
Well, thank you very, very much for that. I'm truly happy to hear from you all in Belize, and I think it just proves the power of technology that you can be listening to us live and lively and be able to call in. So thank you very much. I trust that things are good in Belize.
Things are good in Belize. I just want to say one thing before I come off to here. I like to browse through the WhatsApp programs, and I was getting the impression from WhatsApp that Nevis and St. Kitts were falling to hell. But listening to the Prime Minister yesterday, I got a completely different picture.
Well, caller, you know what they say, they circulate as much bad news as they can, and bad news tends to travel faster than good news. But the truth is that the country is not without its difficulties, but I think all things being equal, we are doing very well in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I am proud that this little country, tiny as it is, the smallest in the hemisphere, that we have and continue to punch well above our weight. If you just look, for example, at the Human Development Index that they recently published, St. Kitts and Nevis is among the top in relation to the Caribbean. You look at our GDP per capita, we are among the top, again, in the Caribbean region. So we have been performing well, and I believe that sometimes we take that for granted, and sometimes we are prepared to knock ourselves unduly hard. And of course you have the opposition, which is quite active, and that's fine as well. Every country needs an active and vigilant opposition, but
that is right.
That has been the issue here, So I try to be balanced, I try to be fair. I know that we're not perfect, nobody is, but I do feel that on balance we're doing well in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Glad to hear that, and glad to hear from you, and keep on doing what you do best.
Thank you, my brother, and thank you for the call.
You are our Muhammad Ali.
All right. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless Belize. All right. We had a call all the way from Central America in Belize, a part of CARICOM, and very important country. I've had the privilege of visiting Belize. Very beautiful country. And I say good evening. I didn't realize we had listenership as all the way there. But I say good evening to them, particularly my brother Godfrey Smith and his family, Andrew Marshallek, Jackie Marshallek, good people I know from my days at UE and onwards. So I'm delighted to hear from them. Now, let me see if anybody's holding. Anybody else is holding? Let's try and take some more calls. We have 10 minutes left. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Good evening.
Yes, you're on the air.
Honorable.
Good evening to you.
I'm calling from Sweden to say, to congratulate you for your hard work. Even though the opposition doesn't see your hard work, I see your hard work. Somebody sent me some pictures from Overbath, and I write back to them and tell them, that ain't Overbath, that is Charlestown, because those roads, I can't believe those roads is in Overbath, is in Bath, really. So, don't listen too much to the noise. I mean, you know that. I ain't got to tell you that. So, and you're doing a very good job. Not just a good job, you're doing a very good job. Good night, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And this is a call from Sweden, you say?
Yeah. Yes. I've been living in Sweden for 40 years.
Oh, wow. Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I first lived in England for 5 years, but I thought that Margaret Thatcher was not a nice lady.
So you moved to Sweden, but how do you? How have you made it in Sweden with the language?
Well, I went to school. You know, they sent me to school and paid for my schooling. Yeah.
So you were able. So you speak the language fluently.
Yeah. Oh well, fluently might be a little exaggeration.
So I want you to do something for me. I want you to sing "Good Night to Nevis" in the Swedish language.
Godnatt.
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 All right.
I wanted to say something about the water situation.
Yes.
Because there was a program sometime, and I was listening, and people was like criticizing people who have water systems. They were talking about frogs getting into it, right? And I think, like you described tonight, it is very important to stimulate the private people to have their own water, whether it is a cistern or a tank or whatever. But I was thinking, is there somewhere the government can help to give people information how to deal with certain situations, or give them, some rebate on buying things or something like that?
So it's interesting you raise that, because the Honorable Spencer Brand has been trying to formulate something to bring to the cabinet to try and achieve exactly that, to see how we can assist persons. Because the truth is that if you look at a lot of the older homes in Nevis, homes built in the 80s and 90s, virtually all of them have cisterns.
Yeah.
That was standard.
We have one still standing there today.
Absolutely. So that was standard. Even so-called poor people had a cistern, because the encouragement was to build catchment areas. Over the years, as the government water supply has got better, people have said, well, man, I don't need no cistern because I can rely on the government supply. So that we have suffered. So we now need to get back to some of those sustainable practices of harvesting as much water as we can.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. People can adopt quickly to being unself-reliant when government is giving out. We're doing so good. That means that you're doing so good with water that people don't need to bother about their water.
Well, that has been the situation. So we're trying to correct that now, to tell people it's such a precious resource. It is a scarce resource that we have to do better at conserving and capturing, because with less rainfall now, and that's empirical, the evidence is there, that we have to do better to harness the rainfall that we do get. We have to be able to capture it, because, as you know, it runs off in the guts and into the ocean, and most of it really goes to waste, so to speak. So it is a work in progress, but part of that is the education process, so that our people understand the value of conserving water and the value of capturing as much water as they can as well.
Yeah, because you don't have any heavy metal industry in your country, so
no, we don't.
It is quite comfortable. And when I go there, I drink the water from the system, because it is much lighter and it is much more palatable, I find.
And frankly, once most people have a filter system, and at my home, for example, we boil the water, and that's the water that we drink. I see a lot of people who buy bottled water, for example, to drink in their homes, and we don't buy bottled water at my house, because we boil the water and we have it in the refrigerator. I feel that there's a lot that we can do, and a lot of small changes that can be made to just ensure that we're more sustainable.
Yeah, I think mostly is information about. I think a lot of people is doubting the quality of capturing the water from the house and drinking it.
No, man, the quality is excellent. I don't see a problem there, and that's what we did for years. But as I said, you can have a filter system from your cistern as well, so that doesn't pose a problem. And then people talk about frogs and all of that, but even in the old days, I remember they used to have like a a metal, or like what you call like a sifter, we used to say. It's a sieve, a sieve that you would have, and the water would run through that. So that would catch leaves, right? So that would catch leaves and all kind of things, and then you empty out that from time to time. But that acted as a filter to prevent any sediments getting into the water storage. But I think if you get that water from your cistern and you boil it before you consume it, and then of course you use it for showering and all that, that doesn't pose any problem at all.
No.
Yeah?
No.
But thank you very much. I believe this is our first time we've had a call from Sweden. So I'm very, very grateful to you for the call.
No, I've talked to you before, but I haven't mentioned it. But the caller before me mentioned where he came from.
Right.
And I thought, but I mean, that radio station is better than any other radio station because I hear it right there in Sweden.
Good. Excellent. Well, thank you very much and for your call. And if you plan on coming home for Culturama, let's link up. If not, whenever you're here. Okay?
Okay.
All right. God bless you. Thank you.
God bless you. God bless you.
All right. Good. So we have 5 minutes left on the show, and we have some time to take some more calls. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those two calls warm my heart because one was from Central America and one is from Europe, Sweden. And so I think that just shows that people are listening. And it's an amazing thing to sit here in a little room at Von Radio in Bath and to be heard around the world. And that is why when I say to people, when you're calling, they just try to have a conversation that is pitched at a certain level. Why is that relevant? That is relevant because we don't know who's listening. And we should always try to give the best representation that we can of our island and of our people. We have 3 minutes left. We can perhaps accommodate one final caller. There's somebody out there who has something to say. We invite you to call and to say what you have to say. While I wait for the phone to ring, let me just remind the general public that we have the Battle of the Mixes. We're going to have a bartender competition. 8 bartenders will be competing to create the drink of the Culturama Festival 50. Culturama Festival C50. We're going to have a signature drink, which is going to be the drink of the festival. And we're having 8 bartenders compete April 14, 2024 at MJR Park, starting at 4 p.m. Entertainment by DJ Smudge and SG Presidential. And then on the 28th of April, at our Nevis Athletics Stadium, we have the Parish Relays. We're going to have 5 teams. It is being put on by A1 Farms and AMP Promotions. And those 5 teams are the St. James Tigers, St. Thomas's Dragons, the St. Paul's Falcons, the St. John's Mustangs, and the St. George's Hawks. So those are the 5 teams that will be competing for supremacy in the Parish Relay. And so we look forward to that very much. We thank Mackie Truss from A1 Farms who called in to explain what was happening, and I believe that's a fantastic initiative where the private sector is getting involved and using the facilities. And whilst I'm saying that, I mentioned that the Culturama Village and Culturama Complex are going through a transformation. Let me again go on record to say to promoters throughout St. Kitts and Nevis, to bands and all of those who are into entertainment, that these venues are available to you. These venues are available to you. So let us not just use those venues during Culturama. Let us make it possible that they can be used throughout the year. And so that is my appeal, that you come, you step forward, and you put on your various events, your various shows, and you make it possible to do that by partnering with the government at these various venues. So no matter what your show may be, and no matter how big it is, because these venues can accommodate large crowds, significant crowds. So bring in your artists, your reggae artists, your soca artists, bring in whatever type of show you want to have. We will accommodate you. It's 10 o'clock. And so that means that the show is up and over. The band will strike up shortly. Here we go. And I want to thank everyone for calling, those who are part of the show this evening, and for being a part of the show. Thank you, Eric Evelyn, who called in, our Deputy Premier, for his usual updates. And we thank all who listened and were part of the show. This show is rebroadcast tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on Von Radio, the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse. Get home safely for those who might be on the road or traveling If you're already home, I wish you a wonderful night's rest. God bless you and keep you. Thank you very much.